today's cocktail is one that I've never really been a fan of, and it's the fog cutter. I've only made it a handful of time, mainly for videos, and I've genuinely never thought about making it off camera. If you look at the original spec with over 4 ounces of rum and 3.5 ounces of mix, yes, you could argue the daiquiri is stronger, but the daiquiri is just beautifully balanced. This really isn't. So today, let's experiment and let's try and find a fog cutter recipe that actually works. And who knows, maybe by the end of the video, you'll be thinking, actually, do you know what? I really want to try the fog cutter. Stranger things have happened. Now, before I dive in, let's get some feedback from you guys. Again, thumbs up emoji, thumbs down emoji, like laughing face, sad, angry face. What do you think of the fog cutter? Is it a cocktail? For those of you that have made it, is it a cocktail that at face value, at original spec, you make? Or if you do make it and you change the spec, what is your spec? Let us know. Let's build a community around the fog cutter in the comments below. So the first recipe that I'm going to kind of show you is the original recipe for the cutter. We've taken for the fog cutter. We've taken it from Beach Bum Berries Remixed. It's on page 48, and this is Trader Vic's original 1940 recipe in there. So I'm just going to make it at face value, at face spec, using that, and I'm just going to talk you through some little bits after it on the tasting. So first up, 60 ml of lemon juice, 30 ml of freshly squeezed orange juice, 15 ml of your favorite orgeat syrup, 2 ounces of light Puerto Rican rum. I've gone for Don Q Cristal, 1 ounce, 30 ml of brandy or cognac. We'll talk about that in a bit. And then 15 ml, half an ounce of a decent gin. And then we're just going to ice that up and give it a shake. Then we're just going to pour unstrained, open gated pour, shake and dump into your favourite. So this is close. This is like an 18 ounce tiki glass. I think you would probably use a tiki mug, but you know, throughout all the years of me doing videos, all the comments say use glass so we can actually see the colour of the drink. Now I've just topped it up with a bit more ice, and then we're going to do 15 ml, half an ounce of a sherry float. Now actually, before I do go on and dissect this, actually what would be better if I made Martin Cate's version, which is in page 275 of Smugglers Cove. And it's very, very similar. There are slightly different ratios, and it does call for a couple of slightly different ingredients. First up, 45 ml of lemon juice instead of 60, 45 ml of orange juice instead of 30, the same amount of orgeat, which is 15 ml. Then there's a slight change in the brandy. We've gone for 30 ml of Pisco. Now, I will talk about this in a minute because I can go down a few different rabbit holes with this cocktail. Martin Cate then calls for exactly the same with gin, so 15 ml. And then it's the same amount of rum, 60 ml, 2 ounces. However, Martin Cate calls for an aged sort of Puerto Rican rum. So I've gone for Don Q Gold. Now I completely forgot, Martin Cate actually called for it to be sort of spindle blended, milkshake blended. So I've just quickly transferred it, crushed ice, flash blended for about 5 or 6 seconds. So we've got an open gated pour. Now I've just topped up with crushed ice. And even though I've got the same sherry, which I'll talk about, Martin Cate actually calls for Oloroso sherry float, 15 ml. Same amount, just a different sherry. So 15 ml. So let's get on to dissecting these cocktails. So, Beach Bum Berries, Martin Cate, Smugglers Cove. There is a clear winner between these two. Today's video is sponsored by me. If you had a chance to download my free rum ebook yet, if not, you'll find the link below in the description of this video, or you can scan the QR code that's popping up on screen right now. My free rum ebook gets updated twice a year and it's packed full of interesting information and tips of how you can enjoy rum. It also includes a few basic rum cocktail recipes, plus how to make one of my favourites. This is a dragon fruit and papaya daiquiri. So what are you waiting for? As I said, you'll find the link in the description below, or you can scan that QR code. Right, back to the video. And actually, I don't think Martin Cate's is actually that bad in the grand scheme of things. Martin Cate's version is vastly superior to the version in Beach Bum Berry, because we've got less lemon juice, because we've got more orange juice. Those flavours are now balanced, if you like. This one is a very sort of citrus heavy with the lemon juice, and I think you do actually notice the rum difference as well. There's 60 ml in here, and you do get those like light vanilla-y, light caramelly notes, which do kind of tell your head, even though the rum is not sweeter, those flavor profiles in that rum kind of make you think it's a slightly sweeter drink. I mean, in both of those recipes, you do get the punch of juniper coming through. In both of those recipes, you do get an element of grapiness coming through from the brandy and the pisco. And then in both of those recipes, you also get that sherry as that top note, because that is floated on top. Now remember, I'm not sure whether I actually remembered it, but remember, Beach Bum Berry, Don the Beachcomber, actually called, sorry, Trader Vic was the vodka. Trader Vic actually called for cream sherry, and Martin Kate called for Oloroso. Now, I've used the same sherry. Let's get into dissecting this very quickly, okay? I've used the same sherry for both. I'm not a sherry fan. I'm not going to have 2, 3, 4 different types of sherry here. We can get half bottles of sherry, but even then, I'm not going to use them because I don't really drink sherry. So I've only got one type of sherry. So for you guys that, you know, want to experiment, perhaps the cream sherry in that would have sweetened that up more. But it's those sherry notes that I'm not overly a fan of in this cocktail. So you have got that to think of. The reason why this isn't sweeter is because that is a kind of a medium light. I've just got Harvey's here. An Oloroso is a slightly nuttier, drier type of sherry as opposed to a cream sherry. This is like a medium dry sherry. It's not the best in the world, but as I say, I don't drink sherry. So if you use the cream sherry in that, yes, it's going to be slightly sweeter. Now, I don't think we need to talk about the Orgeat. Both recipes have 15 ml of Orgeat. The almond notes are just subtly there in the background. I think that's absolutely fine. We don't need to dissect that. The lemon juice and the orange juice, again, for me, that actually works quite well in Martin Kate's, and equals split base, 45 ml of both. They don't work for me in that, with 45 ml of lemon juice and 30 ml of orange juice in Beach Bum Berry's version. So Martin Kate's, I would go with there. Let's talk about the spirits involved in this. So first up, gin. Now let's get into the bare basics of gin for a second, okay? Gin, for those that don't know, is essentially the world's first flavoured vodka. It is a juniper flavoured vodka. It's a neutral spirit with juniper and other spices in there. So essentially speaking, it is a juniper flavoured vodka. Now, when you go back to the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, there wasn't an abundance of gin back then. The chances are your gin was just vodka, neutral grain spirit with juniper and maybe a couple of other things in it. They're not going to be like the 40, the 30, the 25 botanical monsters that we've got these days. Also, I would say for this, your gin acts as like a seasoning in this cocktail. It is neutral spirit with juniper. That's the flavour that's going to come through. It's juniper. And that's what the whole purpose of using gin in this cocktail is. So you don't want a gin with delicate botanicals in there. You want a gin that just punches out a classic London dry style of juniper forward gin. If any kind of rum cocktails, that's kind of what you want. You're not going for all the other botanicals that might be in the gin, because they're going to lose out. All you want is the seasoning from the juniper. Now, I have already touched on the rum, but I think the big difference for me using, where have I put it? I'll put it back up here. I think the big difference in that is actually you do get those vanilla-y notes. And actually what might have been even better is an even more aged version of this. So I don't, you know, you've got, I'm a big fan of white unaged rum, massive fan, but definitely in this cocktail with those specs, I definitely do, for me in my palate, I definitely benefit from the extra aging, those vanilla notes that come from barrels, those caramel notes that come from barrels, maybe a slight toffee note that's in there as well, but you've just got that little bit of wood seasoning that kind of just gives you a little bit more flavour. I don't think an unaged rum works in that cocktail. Now, let's talk brandy. And this is new to me, but I'm far enough down my brandy journey, even though I haven't uploaded a few videos there for a few weeks now. I'm kind of in between you and looking at other things on that channel. But I'm kind of far enough down that brandy channel to understand how different brandies work. I wasn't really in that position 3 or 4 months ago. Now I am. So, Beach Bum, Trader Vic, I've just called brandy. I did actually use a cognac. And Martin Kate has called for Pisco. There is a massive difference here, massive. Aged, unaged. You know, with Pisco, you've got, with cognac, for example, it's the best of the best, that allegedly, you know, you've just got grapes and the grape juice. With the Pisco, you've got everything that goes in there, from the skins to the bits of the stalks, everything that goes in there. Now, Pisco is actually delicious, but it is unaged. Okay, you do not have the barrel influence going in there at all that you would do with this. So you don't get oaky vanilla notes on that. So actually what might have been better for me was a swap there for there. The white unaged, the Pisco might have been better going in Beach Bum Berries version and the cognac going in there. However, now I'm going to go there. I'm going to go another step. I was just going to quickly say something else then, but I'm going to go another step. Let's just talk French brandy for a second. So I've gone down this route, and how French brandy differs from cognac, if you haven't watched my other channels, is that they are lighter, they are fresher, they are actually a little bit more juicier in this sort of sense. Okay, they're still, you know, the same sort of grape base. They're just not made in cognac. That's the first difference. You know, they're not made in that area, in that region. And even if they are, there might be there's so many rules and regulations what you can and can't do about cognac. You could actually make a brandy in cognac and it still can't be called a cognac. It's not just the area, the geographical area, it's everything that goes into it, the aging, the barrels used, you know, the process, when it's actually distilled. You can only distill brandy 6 months of the year. So if you distill brandy outside of those 6 months of the year, it can't be called cognac. You know, it's all these rules and regulations. But just take this one brand here, St. Remy is a much lighter, much more delicate brandy than what a cognac is. Now, just to take this a step further, what I was actually going to mention, and I completely forgot I haven't yet bought a bottle, is Spanish brandy. I've done the Spanish brandy deep dive and I've used the Torres. Hopefully the close-ups will get that there. Now, for me, what I found was Spanish brandy, because they do use a lot of Solera aging in there, you actually get a very, very different brandy to what you would do from French brandy. You get much more vanilla notes, much more sort of caramel notes coming off there, where you get peaches, you get soft fruits like strawberry notes coming off there. You do get that grape. But from this, you definitely do get those caramel vanilla-y notes. And you know what? I actually think that would benefit the fog cutter more than what a cognac would do, or a French brandy. I really do think if I had a proper bottle of this, I really do think Torres, maybe the 15, the Torres 15 would be an absolutely superb choice of this for those added richness notes. And then the last riff I want to give you, I thought I had a bottle, but now I can remember back, I have donated it elsewhere, is something like the Dos Madeiros 5+5. A really sweet, not super sweet, but a sweetened up rum. So it's a rum, it's a little bit Barbados, a little bit of sort of Spanish that's been Solera aged, it's been aged in sherry barrels. Now you could think Dawley's XO, for example, it's not quite that sherry forward. I've hopefully got another rum that I am actually thinking of that I'm going to use instead. But I think actually instead of having a sherry for a float, I think using a sherry aged rum where you do get those notes of sherry coming through would actually be a bit better. So I have got a recipe in mind and I'm going to show you now. Now I nearly forgot, but the one thing I wanted to do, I'll just put the other cocktail books away and just saw this. I wanted to give a shout out to Shannon Mustipher and the Tiki Modern Tropical Cocktail. Now, she's got a very different version of the fog cutter in there. I can't make it because I haven't got the ingredients. Take the Noyo, for instance, like a hazelnut liqueur. I need to get in there. What else have we got in here? We've got, there we go, calamansi juice and sesame seed oil. But she has given it a different name, but it's essentially the fog cutter, it's her twist on a fog cutter recipe. If I had those ingredients, I would absolutely love to make this cocktail. But hopefully my version is a little bit more accessible to the mass market. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to adapt Martin Cate's version from the Smugglers Cove. And I'm just going to bring it round to what I think would make this cocktail absolutely sing. So same, 45 ml of freshly squeezed lemon juice, followed up by 45 ml of freshly squeezed orange juice. Keeping the Orgeat the same with 15 ml, half an ounce. And I'm also going to keep the gin the same which is 15ml, half an ounce. So the gin has been a constant in all three of these. The same gin, the same volume, 15ml. Now I know I haven't got enough here, but the brandy that I'm going for is the Torres 10. The Torres 15 is the bottle that I would probably buy for cocktails, but actually the Torres 20, what's it called? I forget what it's actually called. It's called the Horse d'Arge, 20 Horse d'Arge, was phenomenal. Spanish brandy is a lot cheaper. So I know that I haven't got enough here. I've got what, 25, 26ml. That'll be all right for what I'm about to do. We'll get the flavor. Okay, we're going to lack a little bit of ABV, like 0.2, 0.4% ABV from the final cocktail. But I've got, what I would do essentially is 30ml of a Spanish brandy, aged brandy there. We get those vanilla notes, we get those caramelly notes coming through. And then instead of the sherry float, and keeping to a similar style of rum, I've swapped the Puerto Rican for Cuban, and I've gone for my Añejo Suave, which is a sherry finished or sherry aged Cuban rum, and this is absolutely delicious. It's a little bit weaker, I will say. It's not a 40%er, but this is gorgeous. So 60ml double bubble of that. Then after a quick flash blend, just going to do an open gated pour. Yes, I've got 3 of these glasses. Crown with even more crushed ice. Just going to garnish with a nice bouquet of mint. Now you can see, hopefully, on the camera, hopefully the close-up will pick those up. Hopefully if I spin the glasses around, it's even better, because you see the back maybe of those. Can you see the colour difference? Just purely from the Spanish brandy and actually the rum that I've used as well. And the Spanish brandy, I say, it's a lot more unctuous. So let's have a little taste. Let's see if I have fixed the fog cutter. And I have to say, I have. That is delicious. That is really, really good. Now what I don't get is that, you know, the overly sort of sherry notes, that real sort of, you know what sherry tastes like. I'm not a huge fan of that, but weirdly, I'm not a huge fan of sherry rums, but weirdly, I just love this. The Ron Cube Añejo Suave. It's gorgeous stuff. I don't like the Dawley's XO, you know, so this just off the top of my head. This is now really, really nice. I don't just think it's that rum. I do think it's the addition of the Spanish brandy instead. The orange is balanced, the citrus is balanced, the almond is there from the Orgeat. Honestly, I know I like to blow smoke up your backside. I don't mean that in a sense. I just think, simple, for those of us that don't like sherry, I just think going over to a sherry aged rum and a Spanish brandy really does fix this cocktail. Anyway, let me know what you think in the description below. Have you got sherry aged rums? If so, what would you use? And have you got any Spanish brandy? Again, there are various other brands in there. I use Torres because that is easily available in the UK and the US. It's one of the biggest Spanish brandy brands out there. That's just gorgeous now. That is absolutely delicious. And don't forget, keep those comments coming in. Let me know what cocktails you want me to attack and debunk and maybe try and fix in the future. Keep them coming in the description below, in the comments below. I'll see you next time.